Hello, so in this part we are going to install i3 VM, which is a window manager, and it's a so-called tilting window manager. So instead of being able to move around the windows, when you open up a window on a tiling window manager, it basically goes to full screen. And if you open up a second window, it will simply divide in the middle of your screen and arrange them like that. And if you open up a third window, it will split it in 3 parts and basically resize all the images. But you can see how it's going to work in a few minutes after we installed it. So in order to install it, we are going to open our terminal in our Dome 0. And we are going to install by using the Qubes Dome 0 update command. And we are going to use the enable repo switch, and that is basically enabling the current Dome 0 testing repository. And inside there we can install i3, and we can also install a settings package. So this setting package basically contains some config files and stuff like if you're not going to use your computer, it will automatically lock it and you have to re-enter your password and little things like that. So whenever you install software inside your Dome 0, it basically launches the firewall VM up here. And this firewall VM is then basically carrying out all the update process, getting the files and copying them back over to Dome 0, and then the installation can continue. As you can see, it only contains like 27 packages, so the footprint of that window manager is also really nice. Okay, so we installed it, and now we can simply go to log out. Now if we go to the top right, you can see that it's currently set to use XFCE, and we're going to switch that over to i3. And again, simply enter your username and password. Well, select the username and enter the password. Okay, and we are greeted by this, you could say, error message of first configuration. So basically what it asks us is if it should create a config file. And inside the config file you can do a bunch of configuration, like for example define how this menu bar here at the bottom looks like and stuff like that. So we are going to select yes, generate a config, and we are going to use the Windows key as a master key, you could say. So basically you have a bunch of key combinations, and it usually starts with a Windows key. So let's click enter again. So how does the tilting window manager work? So basically right now we don't have any screens, we don't have any start menu and stuff like that. i3 mostly works over keyboard shortcuts. For example, you press Windows and enter. That is going to launch a terminal. You also have the option to start other programs by hitting the Windows and D key. And then you simply type the name. So for example, if I wanted to open another terminal, I would type terminal emulator and press enter. Now I have 2 terminals open, and as you can see, it basically split up all the space. By default, they split up vertically. If you want to change that, you can press Windows and V. And then again we press Windows D and type in terminal emulator and use the tab to complete. And now you can see it didn't split like this, it split like this. What we can also do is, for example, we could launch the Windows Qubes Manager. And I think that is not going to work right now. There is probably some bug right now, so we actually have to restart the computer for it to work, and that is the first step we are going to do. We are going to reboot it. So see you in a few. So we are starting back up from the Qubes disk. Now, as you can see, the Qubes VM Manager successfully started this time. And now we can do some examples of how to open up different windows in different virtual machines. So for example, I usually shift this window to the second screen. I can do that by pressing the Windows, the Shift and the number 2 at the same time, or number 1 to get back to the first one, number 2 to get back to the second one. You can simply create a new screen by pressing Windows and, for example, let's say number 3 or number 1, and it automatically switches over to that screen. So you can also press Windows 2 to get back to screen number 2. So let's, for example, go back to screen number 1 by pressing Windows and 1. And now I'm going to open up a Firefox browser inside my work virtual machine. So I press Windows D, I type work double point, and then I press enter Firefox. What I also usually need for work is a terminal. So here's our Firefox. And then I'm also going to launch a terminal by pressing Windows D. I type in work, double point, and then I want to use my terminal. But instead of the terminal, I usually use the Terminator. So we first go to work, add more shortcuts. And in this window I can specify what applications I can use. So I go down here, select the Terminator, move it over to the right and remove the terminal because I don't need that. I always want to use the Terminator. What I also need in my work is probably KDN Live, so I can create videos and stuff like that. And that's pretty much it for the beginning. So we have Terminator, we have KDN Live, and we have a Firefox. So I'm going to launch my Terminator now. So Windows D, work, double point, and there we have the Terminator. As a force of habit, I usually keep my Terminator on window number 4. So I click on the Terminator window, press Windows, Shift and 4. And now I actually shifted both. So again, I click on the Firefox, Windows, Shift and 1. Now Firefox is on my first screen. On my second screen I usually have the VM manager, and I'm also going to open up a Firefox in my personal machine. This is usually the browser I use for listening to music and stuff like that. And my personal VM is connected through the French VPN gateway. So let's say, for example, I want to open YouTube and I would listen to anything. I'm not going to click anything right now because I will have copyright issues. But for example, you can see I have some unused space over here. So let's resize that, and we simply click on the window we want to resize and press Windows and R, and then I can use the arrow keys. So if I want to make it bigger, I would now click on the right arrow key, and it would jump over 1 unit. What I also do is this space, which at the bottom here is not really used, I'm going to press Windows D and open up the terminal emulator. And now I want to move that down here. So I click on this window, press Windows Shift and move the arrow to the left, and then downwards. And now you can see I have this one at the top left and this one at the bottom left, and I want this to be on the right. So again, I move my mouse over here to the Firefox browser, press Windows, Shift and the right arrow key. So now almost everything is perfect, but the resizing got rearranged. So again, I click on the browser, Windows R, and move the right arrow key. And also here Windows R and the up arrow key. So in case I'm going to add further virtual machines, they would show up here. So that's pretty much my my layout. On the first side I have my work browser. On the fourth one I usually have my my work terminal and also my personal terminal. I have to add the terminator here as well. So let's remove the terminal from over here and add the terminator. And now again I can press Windows D, personal, double point and terminator. So now I have my two terminals, and usually what I also do is on the third screen I have the work application open. For example, if I'm going to build projects in PHP, I'm going to use PHP Storm, or if I'm going to write Python, I usually go for PyCharm, and whatever I code I usually do on the third screen.